Hey everyone, it's your girl Alfia. Thank you so much for joining us today. Today I have a special guest with me, and I have my admin Jennifer. Thank you so much for joining us. Go ahead, Jennifer. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for inviting me to chat with you today about The Burning Bed, Alfia. This is a tough one, but it also appears to be a fan favorite. I'll be honest, I'm not really a fan of this kind of movie. I know there are a lot of Lifetime movies about women who are in those kinds of relationships with their husbands and they take matters into their own hands because they feel like their life depends on it. I can't even imagine what it must be like to be in that situation. I know that lots of people are fascinated by this kind of storyline because in the early 90s alone, there were a ton that came out around the same time, such as If Someone Had Known, starring Kelly Martin, Life with Billy, Cries Unheard, the Donna Yaklick story, which starred Jacqueline Smith and Hilary Swank, Final Appeal, which starred Brian Dennehy and Jo Beth Williams, Lies of the Heart, the story of Lori Kellogg, which starred Jenny Garth and Gregory Harrison, The Conviction of Kitty Dodds, which starred Veronica Hamill, Bed of Lies, which starred Susan Day, and in the movie Personals, it was a secondary storyline. So it's clearly a popular theme, and I feel it's what Lifetime has become known for over the years. Many of these movies were even based on true stories. Just to give a brief synopsis of the plot, the movie opens with a woman torching her home and driving away with her 3 children. She ends up in jail for the murder of her husband, who was burned alive inside the home. The movie goes back in time and we find out how she and her husband met at a party in the 60s, how she tried to hold on to her virginity until marriage, but eventually gave in, and then found herself sliding helplessly into a legal union with a man she didn't seem all that passionate about. But it's not long before he reveals himself to be abusive. So the movie flips back and forth between the past and the present, her relationship with Mickey, and the trial after his death. And this is based on a true story. I definitely felt The Burning Bed was a well-made television film. I liked that they used familiar songs in this, such as Tell Him by the Exciters. It set a tone since this movie took place in the 60s and 70s, and it was a book as well. They also included the timeless classic You Are My Sunshine. I liked that the little boy said that song was stupid. I totally agree with him. You can tell the movie was made with care and not just to pump out the same kinds of stories again and again. The acting was great, especially by Farrah Fawcett. I really believed her as a woman in a difficult situation. She was also in Small Sacrifices, where she plays a woman who kills one of her kids and tries to kill the other 2. I intend to see that movie soon. That movie features the song Hungry Like the Wolf, and I'm a huge Duran Duran fan. But back to The Burning Bed. The girl who played her daughter, Christy, at 6 looks so familiar. I can't find out anything she's been in, though. Paul Le Mat played the abusive husband. He looked like a loser. He gave off that vibe right away, so he did a good job making me sense that early on about the character. I feel like I've seen that name Paul Le Mat before, but the only things I see that he was in that stand out to me at all are American Graffiti, which I never ended up watching, and The Puppet Master. I highly doubt I remember him from The Puppet Master, though. That would be really random. Grace Zabriskie, I'm not sure if I pronounced that right, is very recognizable to me. She played the husband's mother, and she's been in other Lifetime movies. Like, for instance, she played the dead grandmother in Murder Next Door, starring Judith Light as the mother of a young serial killer played by Johnny Galecki. Zabriskie did a great job as a mother in serious denial. I want to feel bad for her and her husband because they lost their son in a horrific way, but she was so willfully ignorant about what was going on and refused to take any action before it escalated to that point. I did think it was a pretty brutal death, and it does bother me. I'm a bit of a bleeding heart when it comes to violence of any kind. I just can't feel good about someone losing their life in a horrific manner. But I also felt a lot of empathy for the wife. And it is a true story and a sad reality in our world. I did feel frustrated that she took him back because she was able to get divorced from him. But in the end, he and his mother bullied her into taking him back, so I guess it amounted to the same thing. Even though he didn't stalk her at first, he still pressured her into getting back with him. And I didn't blame her. I was just frustrated. I do think that perhaps he became worse after his accident, though he was always pretty bad. The mother-in-law was blaming the accident that occurs like halfway through the movie, but I think that was more of her denial. This movie also reminded me a lot of A Cry for Help, the Tracy Thurman story, though that was a very different kind of ending for the woman and the man. Richard Mazur played the wife Francine's lawyer. I've seen him in other movies like The Face on the Milk Carton and Always Remember I Love You. And Gary Grubbs played a small role. Now there's a guy who's been in everything, but he never plays a big role. He's always like a detective or part of the legal team or something like that. He has a very familiar face as a result. He played Harlan in Will and Grace, apparently. I never got into that show. He's been in about 179 movies as an actor, which is not as much as someone like Eric Roberts, who's been in like 600 something, but still up there. Overall, I would rate this movie 4 stars. Not my cup of tea, but still well made and well acted. Thanks again, Alfia. Glad to be back on your channel.
Hey everyone, thank you so much again, Jennifer, for doing your review on The Burning Bed. And I would love to discuss my point of view. If you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe, and join our channels, and also join Jennifer's channel. It's always good when we link up and we do reviews together. And thanks again, girl. So we have Francine, Mickey. Whew, Francine and Mickey. Of course, Francine is a young girl. She meets Mickey. As Jennifer said, they met at a party, and Mickey wanted something from Francine. And Francine wanted to keep herself into marriage, but of course, her and Mickey end up doing the do, and they end up getting married. And you would think they would have a happy ever after, but they didn't. Like the movies in the 90s and 80s, in the early 2000s, there was a lot of domestic violence. And I wish that Lifetime would talk more about it because it still happens even in this generation now that we're in. I'm a 90s baby. I was born in 93. And I didn't watch this movie for the first time until last year. And then I watched it today for a refresher. And I forgot how bad Mickey's mother and father, but mostly his mother, got on my mother freaking nerves. I won't cuss on here. I'll try not to at least. Man, they let her down. They really did let Francine down, but Francine took revenge. No, I'm not saying what she did was right, but she got her revenge. She did. This man was putting her hands on her husband was, and they knew it. And then the mother, Mickey's mother, sat on the stand and said she didn't know. And I'm looking like, where were you when he was doing all this and you knew he was doing this? He was hitting her in front of y'all. And his brother even saw it. His daddy even saw it. Even when she said we need to get him some help, his father, you know what his father said? My boy's not going into no nutcase hospital or whatever. What? Well, Francine took power into her own hands. She said, I'm going to let him go to sleep and I'm going to do the unthinkable. Just gonna stand there and watch me burn. Like Rihanna said. Yeah, I had to sing that part because she set that house on fire. She said she wasn't playing no games. If you haven't listened to that song, Love the Way You Lie with Eminem and Rihanna, I suggest you do. That's my favorite song. I love me some Rihanna. Phenomenal singer. Let me say this. Francine didn't have no, heck, her mom wasn't even there for her. I remember that time. If you watch the movie, Francine went to her mom with her 3 kids, and her mother knew he's domestic violence. She came to her not once, but twice, a couple times. And her mother told her, just give him the kids. He won't hurt the kids. And I'm looking like, you're supposed to be helping her. Even when she first came to her mother, when she was pregnant with her first child. And she was like, he didn't mean it or whatever. And I'm just like, you must have got hit upside the head. Yeah, I went there. Yeah, I went there. Because ain't no way you going to tell your child getting abused. No. It's hard raising kids. I know it is. I don't have any kids. But I've heard stories of how people struggle. I wish somebody could have helped her. That she didn't have to go to drastic measures to end her husband's life like that. because the system couldn't help her. It's just sad. Why can't systems help women that are in domestic violence? And then when their life is taken, then the police want to take it serious. Like, no, she came to you. This is just like Tracy Thurman, like she said. It's so many stories that Lifetime used to cover about getting abused, and y'all don't think to say anything. Y'all, y'all don't think to help. She had no one. Even her friend tried to help her, and even when after the accident, he got worse. Like Jennifer said, he got worse, and he was abusing Francine, and she was tired of it. He didn't want her to go to school. It's just like you had so many insecurities. Even when they first got married, he didn't have a steady job. His dad was like, "You gotta get a steady job." And Francine, she left him. She did, but I like the fact that she left him, but then she went back. And she had to kept going back because I'm gonna say this. What was she gonna do? She didn't have no money. She didn't have nobody to support her, and it's just sad. I'm just sad he didn't end her life, but she ended up taking his life. It was a sad movie. And then they had their oldest daughter on the stand. And I'm going to go ahead and say it, that poor child had been through so much. I don't even think she even honestly cared that her father was gone because she saw her father put his hands on her mother. She had to see that. They went to go tell their grandmother. And then I'm glad she didn't hear her grandmother say what she said to my son. Well, I don't recall him doing any of those things. How you don't recall when you were standing right there, ma'am? You knew about it. You knew when she came in the house. And the thing that pissed me off was that they were fighting and she ran into y'all house and she hid in the closet. And then you swore now they're always playing games. She always say it's her fault. How is it her fault when your son is going upside her head? The mama just pissed me off, and she was just even when she had her baby, the last child she had, and she was like, y'all need back together, and she's like, we got a divorce, whatever, well, the kids need their daddy. It's just like they failed her so much, so she had to take revenge, and I do blame them still, because I'm gonna tell you why I blame them. Because she came to y'all, she tried to ask for help, and y'all didn't help her, so she took those matters into her own hands. That's not right. What she did, no, it was not, but she had to do something because she didn't want to be dead. So she took her husband's life. A brutal way, very brutal way, a very brutal way. She set him on fire in his sleep and then drove off with the kids. Said, dog, that's a lot. If you haven't already, get on Tubi and watch The Burning Bed, because Francine, she got her justice. And when I found out it was based on a true story, I was like, whoa, like, wow. That's crazy, y'all. That is crazy. Domestic violence stories don't always end good, but her story ended pretty good, but it's just not the whole burning your husband alive. But that is a really bad way to die. But it's a very good movie, but the mama gonna piss you off. Mickey's mother is gonna piss you off. She gonna act like her son was golden. Like, you know how mamas be doing about their sons. I'd be like, oh my gosh, come on now. Your son was guilty beating on that woman. Now, I'm not condoning what Francine did, no. But she had to do something. How do I rate this movie? It's a 10 out of 10 for me. Because I like the movie, but it's not something I watch every day. But I would tell somebody about it. Domestic violence is crazy. Women go through it every day and they don't talk about it. And some people sadly get killed because of it, and then they have nobody. And this is when Lifetime used to really be having good movies. I'm just like, come on, Lifetime. Their movies are kind of based on, like, I don't even know how to explain it. I just like when they made the remake of No One Would Tell. I liked how they did it because, like I said, when No One Would Tell came out, it was in the middle of the 90s. So a lot of stuff has updated. We have cell phones now. We can text and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm glad that they made a remake to it. Would I suggest they make a remake to The Burning Bed? Sometimes some stuff you don't need to make a remake to, because sometimes they don't do so good with the remix. Sometimes they be hit or miss with remakes. Sometimes I'd be like, y'all make a remake for what? Because sometimes it don't be good, and sometimes the acting is not good, but it could be improving. But once again, should they make a remake? I'm kind of iffy on that one because remakes sometimes don't be good and they don't need to be making them. But I do like this movie, and I suggest that if you have not watched The Burning Bed, I guess that you download Tubi and watch it, and it's for free with ads. Thank you, and have a good night.